Sweet. That was awesome.
That was
Wonderful.
so good.
Y'all, thank you.
No,
Oh my
thank
God.
you. It was so unexpected, everything that we like talked about. Like we had one idea in our mind about what we wanted to chat with you about, but you're such a wealth of knowledge. Jeez.
Oh.
My
I
mind
appreciate
is
that.
blown about the sex addiction shit right now. Like just fucking blown. Like everything I had written down, I was like, all says sex addiction. So I'm like, okay.
What the hell are we going to talk about?
Yeah. Same here. Like all my questions, it says it ends or starts with sex addiction. It's like wrong,
Yeah.
wrong.
Hey, well,
wrong.
let's answer a couple of those questions because I think it might be helpful in the post show just because then folks can understand that like a lot of times these things are, it's not to say that it's all other mental health issues. It's not that at all. It's to say that a lot of times it has to do with shame. A lot of it has to do with that this is the only and primary coping mechanism. And this is one thing I do wish I would have said on the primary recording, but it's okay. The Patreon people get the extra nugget. It is that it's almost, I always hate saying always, but it's almost always bad to have only one coping skill. And if that coping skill is masturbation and you can't get through the day without masturbating, or you are only seeing other people as sex objects, or you are only seeing them for your own gratification of yourself physically, like, then yeah, we got to talk about that. We got to come to therapy. We will talk about that and we'll figure out other ways for you to dump other coping skills into your life so that you don't have to get rid of masturbation. Like that's usually one of the techniques of people who do sex addiction work, is that they treat it like 12 steps. And so you have to abstain, which I think is complete and utter bullshit.
I do too. I feel like masturbation I feel like masturbation helps a lot. And sometimes I actually get worried that my husband doesn't masturbate enough on his own, because I do whenever I feel like it, but he doesn't. And I'm here when he's here mostly, and he never touches it unless, we're being involved. So I'm just always like, I always tell my male friends, like, it's okay to choke the chicken, because actually I feel like it's healthy for your system. And I'm just like, where is that semen going that you're producing all day long if you're not releasing it somehow? If it backs up, what eventually happens? I'm just think about that.
It doesn't really back up.
No,
it don't work that way.
No, your body absorbs it. Just like our body absorbs like other parts, like during menopause, your body absorbs an ovary, but like your body is meant to deal with its own cells. Like it knows what to do. Just like the idea of like detoxing is bullshit. Like
my body is absorbing semen.
Yes, it makes its own and then absorbs what it doesn't need. Like it doesn't. Also, the idea, I'm sorry, and I'm going to say this, but blue balls is not a thing.
Doesn't seem like a thing. It just seems like what is it exactly?
It's an excuse.
I mean, it's an excuse. Look at Andrew's face.
She got the angry face. I love it.
It's an excuse, yes, but I do think that there's something that they're feeling where it's like they want to do something so bad and they're just not. Like, what exactly
is usually entitlement.
Oh my God, I wish that was on the podcast.
I am entitled to a sexual experience.
Fuck yes.
When you are not.
Wow.
We're not entitled to it.
Jeez, usually in these, like when it's brought up in like films and TV shows, there is that aura within the situation where it's like the girl's like, no, but the guy's like, but I thought I took you on a date and I thought that's what you wanted, and it's just like all of these material possessions or outside experiences that they think warrants them being able to enter into the other person's body.
Yes.
What about the flip side of this? What about if you are pursuing a relationship with someone and they are not being intimate with you, and you yourself are thinking, what if we don't have sexual chemistry? I know someone who's going through that. That's why I just like clicked.
No, I think that these are probably some of the hardest conversations for people to have, especially if they don't have the words or the language to have them, right?
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things when you are dating a person, it is okay to be asking about like, hey, how often do you expect to have any kind of sexual interaction? And you don't have to use clinical words like I do. I just tend to be a giant nerd. So those are the words I use. So like, how often do you want to have sex? This is kind of how often I like to have sex. And then is there a way, is there a place to find some common ground there? And is there a way to change how each person or multiple people are defining what sex means? Because a lot of times people have this definition of sex meaning that genitals are being inserted into, or orifices are being inserted into, when in reality sex is a socio-cultural spiritual, biological experience. It's not just this one very specific sexual behavior that some of us like to do. So
that can include like what? Cuddling, kissing.
I encourage people to like develop a sexy menu. Like, what does it mean to start to have an appetizer? What does it mean to have a main course? What does it mean to have like a tea time? What does it mean to have dessert?
I love that.
It mean for each one of those things is the appetizer kissing and maybe touching on breasts, or touching on butts, or touching on legs or thighs or feet. Like what is your appetizer? What are the things that get you hot? And if you are going to have an appetizer, are you going to agree to having an entree, or are we just having appetizers tonight?
Right. Or sometimes you just want a little wine and a few nibbles at something, but you don't want anything more than that.
But it's okay to be clear about that. And that's what I think is really important, regardless of what genitals you have to do.
Yeah.
Because the clearer you are, the less afraid anybody will be in the situation.
What do you think happens when people suppress those feelings? So, because I know some people can have like a lot of sexual desires. They are on Reddit all day. They're on Twitter all day, looking at all these things, and they don't act on any of those things. I mean, this is a little dark. Do you think that could be a factor that leads to, I don't know, sexual assaults or rape?
Yes. Okay. We have an entire name for these folks: incels, right?
Incels.
Like we have an entire name for people who spend a majority of their time. I mean, a lot of times, like there are some characteristics to this that are people who are incels tend to be primarily male, primarily not all, but primarily white, and do have this entitlement part. Like, I am entitled to a sexual partner. I am entitled to sexual behavior. I am entitled to whatever I want to do sexually.
Imagine that a lot of this shit is because of entitlement. I can't even.
Yes, I feel entitled to things or someone's body. So I actually worked with when I was I think I mentioned in the primary episode, I worked with those who've committed sexual crimes. So I've worked in the prison setting in treatment for people who have committed sexual offenses. So I have sat with people who have harmed people. I've sat with people who have harmed people and then killed them. I have sat with people who just fundamentally have believed for a very, very, very long time that they deserve sex and any kind of sex that they want to have, or any person's body. But here's the reality about that. It's not about sex. It's about power. It's about, I'm entitled.
I feel like it constantly comes down to entitlement. Like everything keeps leading to entitlement. It's sex, it's dating, relationship, flirting, first dates, it keeps boiling down into entitlement.
I think most of our social issues kind of come from some sort of entitlement. Like, why aren't I getting, or what about me? Or even like our sex, like one that you mentioned earlier is desire to just see someone as nothing but a sex object. Like what is like men, or maybe women, I don't know, that go out and I don't want to know their name. I don't want to hear their voice. I just want to get off and then leave. That's it. No questions asked. NSA.
Yo, go pay a sex worker, because then they get paid and then you get what you want and you don't have to have a relationship with somebody.
This is actually why I think sex work should be legal in this country.
Absolutely.
Because I feel like it would actually help a lot of anger that these people are feeling, regardless of whether it's male, female, whatever. But it helps release that tension, and you don't have to go out into like some dark alleyway, or for like a lot of these closeted gay men risking their, lives and their freedom just for a fix, when you can just go somewhere. Yeah.
Creates jobs.
It creates jobs.
Tax it.
Hello. Imagine.
And let me say this about like sexual assault, and I think that this is important for people to know, is that there was, especially during the 80s and 90s, and I am a child of the 80s and 90s, stranger danger and like stranger rape and all of those things. And now we got murder porn and podcasts. Like we have an obsession with what we think, especially as like sexual assault looks like. It's not to say that stranger rape doesn't happen. It absolutely does. And it is incredibly harmful and scary for the people it happens to. Now, that being said, a majority of the time when someone is sexually assaulted, sexually harmed, sexually touched when they did not want to be, it is by a person they know. So I say that so that all the listeners out there know that. I had, the entire time that I was working with those who've committed sexual crimes, I had 2 people who would stalk people. 2 in the entirety of my time for 2.5 years when I did that treatment. 2. The rest of them knew the people they harmed.
I mean, it's easier to harm those because you can control the situation. Whereas
you can also identify someone to harm easier too.
Yeah.
You can see a person who might keep their mouth shut, or a kid that might keep their mouth shut, or a kid that doesn't know the name of their genitals.
Yeah, there's a power dynamic there that you don't have with a stranger.
Yeah,
that's true.
Yeah.
And for the stranger people, was there? Did they have something common between those 2? Even though they were like the minority in the whole study?
I'm trying to think about a way to talk about the themes, because I won't talk about them as people, because they're clients. They deserve as much as they deserve their terrible privacy. Things. They deserve their privacy. As far as like there was definitely themes about power, right? Like there were themes about harming other people, wanting to cause other people pain. So those people exist in the world, right? Like the people who are serial murderers, who are serial rapists, who are serial all of it, absolutely exist in the world. And the thing I can tell you is that those people don't just come from nowhere. They have incredible stories of pain themselves.
Yeah.
So it's not to excuse their behavior or make anything of their behavior, but to say like it's not, I think we want so badly, I think we will sit and listen to the murder porn and the podcasts, the television shows, because it is something that is so scary for us.
It is.
We want to understand it so we can, it's our threat system wanting to prepare for it.
Yeah.
Right. Like, like this, just like when we were kids, I've seen this post going around on some social media. We were all very worried about quicksand.
Right. I remember that. I'm like, when will we ever come in contact with quicksand?
I was very concerned that quicksand was something I needed to be prepared for. I needed to be, but that's our threat system, right? Like, and you, as a kid, you don't understand like the adult world, like quicksand's gonna be around every corner. I just know it. I need to be prepared. I know what to do.
I got my rope.
I know not to move too much. Like
lay flat.
And I think I honestly think this is just, me observing. I think that has a lot to do with it. I think us trying to prepare for something that we think is very culturally and emotionally terrorizing.
I kind of don't like the obsession with the murder and the over sexualization of young kids and weird things in our society. Like I remember just growing up when we had the whole Britney Spears thing. I mean, that Rolling Stone cover, she was 17 and we're like, why am I seeing the vagina lips of a 17-year-old on the cover of a magazine if we're not supposed to look at teenagers sexually? And then there's all these movies and all these like a new show will come out on Netflix or Hulu or one of them. And it's about, you know, the teenage sex experience. So I'm sitting here watching this show. I'm like, so I'm supposed to picture in my mind that this person I'm seeing is a 15-year-old masturbating on my television. What the fuck is wrong with this? Why else do you think we have these issues if we're constantly bombarding people with these images?
Well, and not only that, and we refuse to educate properly and say like, oh, guess what? Yeah, we actually, our sex organs start to really develop and we start puberty around 9-10 years old. We start getting interested in other people and what their genitals are doing and what their bodies are doing. And we actually start messing with our genitals in utero, y'all. In utero. In the belly, we are starting to mess with our genitals. It's not sexual. It is because guess where the concentration of nerve endings is? In our genitals.
In our genitals.
And what does it do for us when we manipulate our genitals? It helps us manage stress. Helps us manage the other hormones in our head.
Your genitals can help you manage your stress. So maybe the common problem with so many people around the world is just not masturbating enough. Or just not coming in contact with their genitals enough.
I really wish I had the magic wand, the magic thing that would work for everyone. I would just like charge people $500 one session. You're done. You're good. It's just often so much more. It's people's stories. It's their stories that they have about sex, and it's also their physiology. I have clients who their vulvas, their actual like clitoral organ that I showed you all, and I'll show you all. So it's Patreon people.
Right?
This
get to see it.
Is actually really small on them.
Right.
So they actually can't access the same kind of pleasure, or they have to do it in a very specific way to access pleasure. Or I've worked with people who only experience pain when they have any kind of sexual experience. And that can come from trauma. That can come from a physical experience, like giving birth to a giant child.
That could do
cause scar tissue. Or how many women I have worked with who gave birth to babies and had episiotomies that we're not doing anymore.
What's that?
It's when they essentially, y'all be ready. I'm going to describe something graphic.
I feel like I kind of know what it is, but I want you to say.
It's essentially where the bottom of the opening of the vagina to the anus, they will cut it.
My gosh.
Rather than letting it naturally tear. So people who have vulvas who have had that procedure done can experience scar tissue and pain.
So it just shows that we're all varied and we all have to just listen to our bodies and accept what is going on physically, mentally, all the leads, basically. It's just like
acceptance, but also like if you're really struggling, it's okay to ask for help from somebody like me or a trusted person who has information, who actually has information that is not from, and I'm sorry, y'all, not from the Bible, not from some person who's only been studying yoga for 40 years. I appreciate their ability to be great yoga people, but they're not sexual experts.
No. Or like some weird YouTube channel plagued with misinformation.
Just vet your information and go to and ask questions of somebody you trust.
For sure.
And I mean, my podcast is available too. Sex Talk with Erica.
Yes, Sex Talk with Erica. I'm gonna check it out.
130 something episodes deep. There is information for you, y'all. Like there is a vast, and the next season is done. I just have to put it out, so we still got to get it edited.
Nice.
So probably September sometime.
Do you put your episodes out at one time, or do you schedule them?
I schedule them weekly when the season comes out. So it's usually we release on Thursdays. We'll see it's probably going to be Thursdays again this year. This time, I've been doing my dissertation. I had to go from doing weekly shows to doing seasons because I gotta finish this PhD, y'all. I gotta finish.
That's smart though, the way you did it, because I mean, your content is evergreen in a way. So I mean, people could listen to it in 10 years and still get something from your show.
Yeah.
So that's the great thing about it. It's awesome.
And I have some really interesting folks. Anywhere from in the early episodes, I interviewed a person who makes sex dolls. I've interviewed, like I said earlier in the regular show, the Dr. Justin Lee Miller. I've interviewed Emily Nagoski from Come As You Are. Just any person with a vulva. Y'all read that book.
I tell everybody to read that book.
Partners with who have vulvas, read Come As You Are. It's great. Emily's work is wonderful. And Emily, it's like I was looking in a mirror. I was just like, oh, my fellow sex nerd. Oh
my gosh.
It's so nice when brains can unite.
Yeah. So, and on the upcoming season is all about vulvas. It's the entire season is about vulvas. So y'all listen in. It's gonna be
some vulva talk.
I can't tell you, I don't think I've ever dated a man that I don't suggest some type of book to.
Oh yeah,
because like they just often think like I don't need to learn anymore, and it's like, yes you do. In fact, my favorite book to give them is She Comes First
from Ian Kerner. It's really great. Ian's work is wonderful.
I mean, I don't think my ex is going to be watching this, but sorry if you do. I gave it to him because I was just like, honey, if you want us to be in a successful relationship, you have to read this book. Yes. You need to better understand what you're doing when you're down there. Like,
and porn is showing you for camera angles. It's not often showing you for pleasure purposes. Now, that being said, there has been some really, really great instructional things written by people who make porn. I'm thinking specifically of Jessica Drake did a series with Wicked, the production company.
Yes.
Joan Price, she's been on my show. She wrote Sex at Our Age. And so that's all about sex post 50. And the two of them teamed up and did some instructional work around sexuality after a certain age. But I know Jessica Drake has done other things too, other instructional videos. O School has some incredible stuff. I haven't offered any courses yet, but that's coming, y'all. I'm going to be doing one specifically for therapists because therapists are just like us, haven't been educated sexually the way that they should have been. And so I'm going to be doing a course for them. And then I'm going to be doing an erectile dysfunction course here pretty quick because those are the questions I get asked a lot. And so I want to make a course where I can just be like, here, do this, and then we'll do therapy.
Yeah.
I can imagine.
Take these steps first, then call me.
Wow. Well, that is some exciting stuff you have in the works. I can't wait to hear more about it and to kind of keep up with it. And we are going to listen. Hopefully everyone else will listen to your podcast as well.
Hey, these two are coming on my show, y'all. You gotta check it out.
Oh yeah, I'm looking forward to it already.
Me too. It's going to be exciting. Thank you again for being with us today. This has been so enlightening.
Yeah.
And mind-blowing.
Oh my gosh. I love it.
I'm happy to do it. I'm so glad to come visit y'all on your show. Thanks for having me, really.
Thank you. Thank you for giving us your time. We really appreciate it.
Yes. Absolutely. And Patreon viewers, thank you for watching us. We appreciate you being with us once again today.
Thank you.